There's a few of you missing today. Raise your hand if you're missing. Yeah, that's what I thought. How's everyone doing? It's nice out today. Yesterday was gross. Oh darn it, I left my phone over there. It's got my list of events. Okay. Recital attendance possibilities. Tomorrow night in here, where there's a guest piano artist, Jose Menendez, and he should be great. That's at 7:30. It's free for students. Saturday is Straight No Chaser. Now, I realize some of your moms are probably more into Straight No Chaser than you. Or your dad, it's me. But they're at 7:30 in the Grand Hall. Student tickets are not cheap. But if you want to see them work, they're going to be working with Grayscale and Ascension at 4 o'clock. And that's an open masterclass if you want to come see what they have to say. And I think the interesting part about hearing them is that they can, in the masterclass, they can talk to you a little bit about what it's like to have life on the road, sound checks in different places. So Straight No Chaser will be there. I'll send that information out about the masterclass, but you're all welcome to attend that, even if you don't attend the concert at 7:30. Let's see, Brass Ensembles, Tuesday night at 7:30 in the Grand Hall. Raise your hand if you're in that. Every brass band. Good. Piano Studio is in here on Tuesday, next Tuesday at 7:30, right? Wow, James is raising his hand. James is excited. Okay, good. Anything I'm missing? Anything you want to announce about events? Yeah.
The Martin Center is giving away 2 free tickets to Straight No Chaser if you go to their Instagram. So if you do want to watch them and don't want to pay, go enter that giveaway. Can you repeat that again? Yeah.
If you go like the Martin Center Instagram,
like and tag a friend, and they'll give you 2 free tickets.
yeah, they'll give you 2 free tickets. AKA, it hasn't sold very well. Yeah, so that's what's happening. Any other events you want to announce? It's a slow week in the world. Great. Don't forget, to those of you I emailed you about piano proficiency, if you haven't done that, talk to Ms. Paolini. Some of you have been asking about, you turned in recitals and they aren't showing up in the ADMN site. Just give it time. Dr. Ramey and Dr. Perry and Dr. Waller have to take care of everybody in the department. There's a lot of people, so they will get them in. But just make sure you have a little patience with that. You have to hit how many by the end of the semester?
8.
8, right. Okay, so just make sure you're on top of that. If you haven't done any by now, you're going to have a lot to catch up. Also, if you're waiting to submit all 8 of those until the end, Dr. Perry and Dr. Waller and Dr. Ramey will find you and just smack you, okay? Because it's so hard for them to do all of this at the very end. A couple of you also asked a really important question. When do I have to submit my 8 for them to count this semester? The deadline, I will email you this again, is midnight on Sunday, December 2nd. 4th. December 4th. So it's before finals start. You're not supposed to go anything to finals week anyway. So you have until midnight on December 4th to drop those in the Dropbox, and then the Dropbox will be closed until the spring semester starts. The other question that some of you had was, whatever high school has a Christmas concert after our semester ends? Can I go see that for my high school requirement or anything that's happening in December? Yes, but that counts for next semester. So you can put that in next semester, but it counts on the 8 for after this semester ends. Everybody got that?
Yes, sir.
Good. All right, I am super excited to introduce our guest today. Many of you know her already. How many of you sang in the Red Requiem last year?
Oh, wait, I didn't
Or play, yeah. We are so privileged to have two incredible orchestras here in our community, the Johnson City Symphony Orchestra and the Symphony of the Mountains. And Symphony of the Mountains artistic director and conductor is led by Cornelia Lamley Orth, and I'm going to let her tell you about her experiences and background. So everybody welcome Cornelia.
Thank you. So I missed it. How many of you have done chorus work with us? Any? Some with us? That is good. How many of you have been to a concert? Even better. And how many of you have never heard of us? You can admit it. Please let me know. Okay, so we're not doing a good job. So my name is Cornelia Lamley Orth. Lamley is my Swiss name and it means little lamb, which is totally like my character is, as you will know after this presentation. I will tell you a little bit about how I became a conductor, then I'll talk about Symphony of the Mountains, and then I'll talk about different kinds of leaderships, because all of you will be leaders at some point, and I will compare that to some music directors so that we can compare how they lead their groups. I would like to start with a little video clip by Symphony of the Mountains. This has been a concert on September 26th. It's a world premiere of a New York composer, Seth Grosshandler, that we also recorded, and we had Bella Fleck in the second half of that concert. So just as a little taste of what Symphony of the Mountains is, if we could please get the first clip. That's the last clip. That's the last clip, not the first clip. The first clip, please. That was the last one. There. Yeah, that's it. That's good, thank you. Thank you. So I am from Switzerland, as you probably can hear from my accent. I was born and raised in a little village with about 1,800 people, in an absolutely non-musical family. My mother played a little bit of piano, my father played the the radio, but other than that, nothing in my family. So in Switzerland, we believe that the easiest way for a kid to learn how to read music is by learning to play the recorder, which I did when I was 7 years old. Then at 9, we were allowed to pick another instrument, and I really wanted to play the flute. But my parents said, no, we have a piano at home, you're going to learn the piano. Well, I became a professional pianist. I wonder if I had become a professional flute player. When I was about 10 years old, this guy came to town, to the village, and he founded an orchestra. He called it Tanto Presanto. And it was a children's orchestra where every kid could play whatever their instrument was. So we had 7 trumpets, 5 percussion, 2 pianists and 3 violins and whatever, but we also had 70 recorders. And that was our orchestra, and the guy wrote the music just for us. And we did tours, like with radio and concerts and TV and so on. And he was such a talented, charismatic musician that I kind of attribute this whole fascination I have and this love for music to him. When I was 16, I got a new piano teacher. Now you need to know, at home, when I wanted to practice, I always had to fight for it because the piano is loud, they didn't want to hear it, so I was the contrary of the usual kid who the parents fight that they actually practice. And I got a piano teacher, her name was Leonore Koch. And one day I was warming up and the door wasn't properly closed, and she came in and she said, "Why do you never play like this when I'm in the room?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "You're hiding your musicality from me. What you have is not a curse, but a gift." And so she told me her story. She's was now a Jewish woman who got deported by the Nazis in World War II and was able to escape to Switzerland briefly before the end of the war and established a new life in Switzerland. But she survived the war because of her talent, because of her musicality. She got to play for people in the concentration camp, but also the Nazis kept her alive because she had that talent. And I think at that moment I realized that what we all have actually is a gift that can make a difference in people's lives. We can touch people in a way that words or actions can't without even explaining. I then got a master's in piano in Switzerland and in Salzburg at the Mozarteum. And after that got a master's in music education and choral conducting. And while being a choral conductor and teaching music at the university, I more and more started to get into the orchestra world, like through musicals, operettas, operas. And then I wanted to learn more about that, and I got my master's in orchestra conducting from Northwestern University. I wanted to study with a Russian conductor, Viktorian Polsky, that's why I went there. The plan was to just stay in the United States for 2 years and then go back, but then I got a job with the Knoxville Symphony. And as a conductor, as my teacher Viktorian Polsky says, if the phone rings, you say yes, and afterwards you ask what this is about. So I took the job with the Knoxville Symphony, then I was with the Oak Ridge Symphony, then started with Symphony of the Mountains, and also with the Cayuga Chamber Orchestra in Ithaca, upstate New York. So after all my education, so I have 3 different masters, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I get my new job with Knoxville. I load all my things in Chicago in a U-Haul truck and I drive to Knoxville. So first of all, if you drive that far in Switzerland, you're in Africa. And second of all, I had learned English in school and then lived in Chicago. Now I'm in Knoxville. I returned the pickup truck. The gentleman who was there, I could not understand a word. So but somebody had to translate from Knoxish to English to me. That language thing was a little bit of a challenge because when I started working with Knoxville, I still remember I asked one of our stagehands to please do something, and he said, "I sure don't care." And I was like, well, could you do it anyway? I didn't know this southern expression that it's the other way around. So I thought I was ready. I'm starting as associate conductor proudly in Knoxville. Kirk Trevor was the music director at that time. He conducted the opening night, the Masterworks opening night. Monday he called me and he said, "Hi dear, I'm leaving tomorrow, you are on." And I said, "No, I'm not, because Olivia Newton-John was coming that weekend." And he said, "Oh yeah, you're conducting that. You have 40 minutes of music in the first half, you have 20 minutes rehearsal time for that, and then you're gonna conduct for Olivia Newton-John." Okay, So I had all of this sophisticated, you know, you have weeks and weeks to learn a score. Now I have 3 days to learn all of this music, and I have half the rehearsal time of the music that I actually have to conduct. Freaking out is a mild expression of what happened to me. So I come to the hall, everybody has a question, from the sound guy to the stagehand to the concertmaster about bowing, and I'm just like, he threw me into the deep water, and that's when I started learning what the real life of a conductor is. And up to now, many times I say, okay, another thing that they didn't teach me in conducting school. A couple of examples, like years ago, not with this orchestra, somewhere else, I conducted a Christmas show, and in the first half we did excerpts from Messiah, so I used reduced strings. So I start conducting, and I see a few bars in, like one of the viola players, sorry, it really was a viola, falls asleep on stage in the concert. And I'm like, oh, I must be a really inspiring conductor. I was proud of myself. So nobody can reach her because it was reduced. And I was looking forward to about 12 minutes into the music when the trumpets come in, who were sitting right behind her. So they start playing, and she goes like, and she looks where she is. And in the break, I go up to her and I said, are you okay? Oh yeah, why? And I said, you just slept 10 minutes on stage in a concert. Oh yeah, I was a little tired. And I was like, are you okay? Oh yeah, I feel much better now. I mean, what do you mean I just needed a nap, right? Few weeks later, I'm in the concert hall, I get a call. Hey Cornelia, I'm on the way to the rehearsal, but I just realized I forgot my teeth. And I was like, you forgot your teeth? Oh yeah. Do you want me to come to rehearsal without my teeth? Or go home and get them and be a little late? And you think you're looking for the hidden camera, right? But that's what all of our jobs are about. It's people, people, people. And there's always situation that as good as any school can be. And your program is spectacular, but you never know what's happening next. So, I heard before that whatever show is not giving free student tickets. Before I forget, the Symphony of the Mountains gives free student tickets to all of our concerts. All you need to do is come to the lobby and you will be handed a ticket. So never think you can't come because you can't afford it. I'd like to talk now a little bit about Symphony of the Mountains. And through that I can show you what I believe my leadership style is and how I achieved that with Symphony of the Mountains. We have 3 words: entertaining, educating, and enriching. And all of these 3 words are the pillars upon which our organization is built, and we try to have all of these 3 elements in every program that we present. Thinking back to my education and what you did, you probably understand why those things are so important to me. We are a regional orchestra, fully professional. Our musicians come from this area, from Knoxville, Asheville, Boone, Greenville, Philadelphia. We have some that coming from Boston because they really love to play here. So it's a regional mix of people. We have 2 youth orchestras. One that we call the Primo Orchestra, that's for younger children, only strings. And then the big youth orchestra conducted by Dr. Kovac, which is a full-size orchestra. We have the Voices of the Mountains, which is our choral component, conducted by Matthew Potterton, who most of you probably know. And we have a board that is also regional, and we have a Women's Symphony Committee as a supportive group. Being regional means we play in Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, and North Carolina. We play in the beautiful halls, like you have one. We just played here a couple weeks ago. No, last weekend, actually. Time flies. Yeah, Saturday we played here. We play at Eastman in Kingsport at the Paramount. We also play in Blowing Rock, North Carolina, about 5,000 people show outdoor. And then we go out to the mountains. We go to Mountain City, we go as far as Grundy, Virginia, Pound and Vice, Virginia, Jonesville, Virginia, because we believe that we need to bring the orchestra to places and people who are underserved in the arts and most likely wouldn't come to us. And if you see what we can do out there, how people enjoy it, or how their lights in the kids' eyes go on, it's worth all the travel. We just did a concert the day after we played here at the Market Hall in Kingsport. This started last year during the pandemic, you know, like every other orchestra, we tried to figure out what we could do. So we did a lot of live stream and smaller groups and outside. And then we had planned Emperor Piano Concerto and Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and Eastman Hall closed on us again. So here is a little political thing also, what they didn't teach you in conducting school. So Eastman, one of our biggest donors, and we play in their hall most of the time, says it's not safe to have a concert. So some people suggested let's just go to the Paramount or to ETSU, and I said no, we can't do that because they say it's not safe. So we are not going to turn around and say it's safe and make them angry, but what we can do is find a location that is kind of outdoors. So we went to the farmer's market where you can open the side walls, which counted as outdoors. And we had about 1,200 people there. So we said, okay, people really want that, we'll make that an annual tradition. So on Sunday when we played again, we had a huge crowd and a lot of people who would never come to a concert hall. Homeless people who heard about it, who read about it, who came and enjoyed it. And that is one of the issues that is going to get bigger and bigger, not just in our area, but everywhere. And with such things, we can reach people who wouldn't come to us. So entertaining, that is relatively easy to understand because we are an orchestra. We're playing different styles of concerts. We just, as I said, had Bella Fleck. We did a world premiere. We had Edgar Meyer, Carl Tanner, Krüger Brothers, like all kinds of soloists with the orchestra. And we play from Tchaikovsky to Brahms to Mozart symphonies, you know, all kind of styles, like the classical music, romantic music, contemporary music. I call that our masterworks. In addition, we play all kinds of different styles. If I mention the Krüger Brothers or Bella Fleck or other bluegrass groups, we do movie concerts, Halloween concerts. In the summer, we do 7 outdoor shows with pops music, patriotic music, movie music, whatever the style is. So we do that, of course, to entertain, but we also do that to educate, because by playing that kind of style of music, we get a lot of people who would never come to listen to a Mozart Haydn program, but they hear us and they realize it's not as snobbish as they thought. I don't know if you have this experience, but a lot of people, when they hear what I do, first of all, let's say I'm invited somewhere and there's music going, and they ask me what I do, and I tell them, they always instantly apologize for their music, every time. And, oh, well, I'm sure that's not the music you're used to. But I truly believe if music is done well, it really doesn't matter what style it is. So yesterday I went to the Paramount to hear Lindsey Buckingham from a former Fleetwood Mac. Because I believe any kind of style of music, if well done, is good. Well, that was not well done. It was so loud that even with earplugs, I left after 3 songs. I sat in the lobby and I still couldn't stand it because it was so loud. The guy was out of tune and whatever. So I don't say every concert is good, but I think if a concert is well presented, then any style can be good. Also, the entertaining, I'm using that to educate. We have co-commissioned a piece by Lucas Richmond. It's called Path to Dignity, and it's a violin concerto and a lot of community activities around it to raise awareness of the problem of homeless people. So we're collaborating with United Ways and other organizations, and I'm mentioning this particular project to you because if there's anybody who has connections or suggestions on who we could partner with here or how to best approach that, I would highly, highly appreciate it. We've done a lot of collaborations, but this is the first time, and I'm really glad that we can do this. Now, educating. We have a program at the YWCA in Bristol. Several years ago, I was invited to be a speaker at their organization, and coming from Switzerland, I come from a kind of a protected environment. Switzerland has 8 million people. We speak 4 different languages. German, well, it's Swiss German. That's my language. There's a lot of in it. The Germans don't even understand it. It's such a strong dialect. But we write in High German. We have Italian, French, and then Romansh. Romansh is another language that about 20,000 people speak. They have 7 different dialects and they don't understand each other. In Switzerland, no matter where you grow up, you have access to really good schools, public schools. If a Swiss kid goes to private schools, it kind of has the smell, oh, he or she didn't make real school, so they have to buy a degree. Very, very different from what I experience here. So that said, anybody, education is free throughout university, everything. All you have to do is buy your books. So anybody, no matter where in Switzerland, without a lot of effort, can have a great education and make a life for themselves. Now I come to this YWCA, and I realize there are children in their after-school program. They call them the at-risk after-school program at-risk girls. They have no chance. They are in an environment oftentimes violent, and they have no chance. I didn't know that coming from Switzerland. So I said, okay, now we're going back to my piano teacher and me as a kid. We need to do something for them. So we provide a free music lesson for them every week. They learn how to play the recorders, we dance with them, we sing with them. This is music education one-on-one. Because they learn social skills through music without us explaining that. They at the beginning could barely talk to us. This has been going on for 12 years now. Now we take them to nursing homes, to hospitals, they perform for the people, they give them little gifts. So I think there is the educating where music proves we don't even need words. We do a nursing home and elderly home hospital outreaches. One example is Christmas 2 years ago when everything was closed. We did a live stream Christmas concert with just a few string players, about 20 string players. Do I do that?
No, it's here.
Oh, okay. So we recorded that and gave it for free to all those nursing homes to put on their internal channels. And then the Tennessee Arts Commission heard about it and they gave us a grant, so we got to do that again. So we keep doing that. There are some things that came out of the pandemic that I think are actually good. Then, of course, university, colleges, other schools, we invite you to come sing with us. I assume for those of you who have sung with the fully professional orchestra that it was, I hope, a good experience. And hopefully you'll come back, so that's an educational thing. We have, as I said, 2 youth orchestras. We collaborate with the Academy of Strings. That's the Suzuki String program here in Johnson City. One special program that I love that we do every few years is called Exceptional Orchestra. This is a program for children with and without disabilities. We collaborate and the word collaborate for me is very important, with many different art organizations of the area. Barter Theatre, Storytelling, Kingsport Ballet, William King Museum, and. The children with and without disabilities have 6 weeks, 6 Saturday afternoons of art workshops. They come together and art does it. Without us adults explaining how things go, they figure out who is good at what and they help each other. Then it culminates in a big orchestra program with a piece that we have commissioned for that, where really the kid who, one of the children in a wheelchair, all he could do is like this, so he put a rain stick over his arms and he opened the concert like this. All other children are involved in the performance as well, so you have a kid who can barely move who is performing with my superstar orchestras and the soloists that we bring in from New York, and we all come together through music, without words, without explaining anything, it happens. And that to me is what Symphony of the Mountains is all about. So you have the entertaining, you have the educating, and I think talking about this, you understand the enriching. I believe in collaborations. I think art organizations will survive and thrive through being embedded in the community, through collaborations. Look at our holiday concert. I think some of you probably have been a part of that. We have the big orchestra, we have the Voices of the Mountains with some ETSU singers in it. We have the Mountain Empire Children's Choral Academy, up to 160 singers. We have the Academy of Strings, 60, 70 kids. We bring in the Mountain Mission School Choir. This is an orphanage in Grundy. Most kids coming from Africa and live there, like terrible, terrible circumstances. They get to perform with us. And of course we have Santa Claus. That's how we bring the community together. Speaking of Santa Claus, another situation that they didn't teach me in conducting school. So one of our board members was Santa Claus. And he was in his costume in the lobby greeting people. And I'm not making up this story, I swear. So he got a little hot, we're at Eastman, and he thinks, oh, no problem, I'll step outside, I won't be on stage until the second half. And he goes outside in his costume and realizes it was an emergency exit. He cannot get back in. Also, he finds himself in a high fenced-in little courtyard. He does not have a cell phone or anything because it's the Santa costume. So Santa decides to climb over the fence, and 2 cops drive by and pick him up, my Santa. So I come backstage, and 2 officers with my Santa are standing backstage, and this is a guy who always plays practical jokes on people. And one of the officers says, ma'am, do you recognize this man? And I said, of course, that's Santa. And he always jumped on me. So anyway, another situation that they didn't teach you in conducting school. One of my favorite programs that we ever did, and we'll see a little bit of that, was right before the pandemic hit in February 2020. We did a program called Our Voices Rise Together. And this was not to show the difference in people, but this was to bring together the community. We worked together with the International Choir of ETSU, then the big choir of ETSU. We have invited the Unity Choir, which is a mix of African American church choirs that all came together. And we had 2 African American wonderful soloists, plus we invited all church choirs of the area to come in for just 2 pieces, 1 rehearsal and then do the concert. We had about 1,000 people who performed those 2 pieces together. Eastman said 1,700 people. It was absolutely packed, and we had the choirs all over the aisles and everywhere. So you had from the little 90-year-old Baptist church lady who could barely stand, singing next to the 20-year-old, absolutely highly talented soloist, and everybody was having a great time. It's been over 2 years and people still talk about it. So this is how I think entertaining, educating, and enriching comes together. Could we please hear that second clip? This is just an example of what happened in this concert. We're just starting. I didn't do anything, I said. So one of the really tricky things here was, you know, I'm a classically trained musician, and I admire people who can just play by ear and things they learn, because I need my music and to see how it goes. And in such a concert, you're dealing with all kinds of people who, some are trained, others aren't, a lot of them don't even read music, and then you have to somehow bring this all under one hat. Hopefully it's gonna work, it's really kind of cool. There we go. Now sound, we don't hear. Thank you. So it goes on a while. I think even just seeing this on the video clip, you can feel the energy in the hall. I mean, it was like 2,500 people in there, and everybody was on their feet, and we're celebrating together. And that's where, I mean, music can bring us together and teach us things without words. It was probably one of my favorite concerts we have ever done, and we're planning another one in February 2024. I hope some of you will be involved in that. So, what does a conductor do? Usually, it's people think I come in and I wave my stick. Saturday or Sunday in the farmers market, one of our players brought some of her high school students, not high school, sorry, elementary school students, and they had to write a little something after, and many of them said, "We like the lady with the stick." Very proud of that. So what it takes, all of you who play an instrument, who are conductors, who make music, know what it takes to learn music. For me, let's say I have a symphony that, let's pretend I've never heard it, I don't know it, I have to conduct it next season. So I already know now what I'm conducting in the 23-24 season. So how do I approach this? It's not just that because I read music I go up there and I know what I'm doing. To learn a new symphony, it takes hundreds of hours on the piano. I'm analyzing the score harmonically, rhythmically. I'm a strong believer in phrases, so I know who needs me where. For example, years ago, I was still in Knoxville. One of the percussion players didn't make it to the concert. He was in a traffic jam. And Kirk Trevor called me and he said, "Can you please come and play the bass drum?" And I was like, "Sure, I can hit a bass drum." And I come there and I'm used to have the score where I know at all times what happens, and I still know the number 478 bars of break, of rests, and then boom. And you can't take that back once you hit the thing, right? So I'm slightly nervous and I talk to the guy next to me, like, "Jimmy, I'll need a little bit of help here," because of course after 4 bars I'm lost in counting. So since then you will always see me big cues back to the percussion. So I know who needs me there. Also, I need to know where do I lead and where do I follow. Let's say I have all professional musicians, I have highly talented musicians, so let's say the principal oboe has a solo. At that moment, my job is as if my orchestra was a piano and I am accompanying her. So I let her play her phrasing, her musicality, the way she wants to tell me that music goes, and I accompany her. Same thing with the soloist. It's always a give and take. When do you lead and when do you follow? So I'm analyzing this piece, let's say it's 45 minutes and it's long at the beginning, it's 45 minutes. And then the more I know the piece, the more I know where the phrases go, how the harmonies go, the shorter the piece gets in my mind until I have one long phrase from the first note to the last note. So I get asked, "Well, but everything is written down. What do you really do? Is it not always the same?" For me, it's like I have a musical picture in me, and the better job I do on the podium, the closer I get to that musical picture, to the colors, to the dynamics, to the phrasing. I keep saying phrasing, and that's how I learn. I learn my pieces. Then, what happens off the podium? Again, I said what they didn't teach you in conducting school. You always, no matter how professional your orchestra is, are dealing with different types of players, different levels and talent and experience of players. You have to bring that under one hat. I had a situation where one of my musicians was losing his hearing. Spectacular musician who had been with the orchestra forever. He didn't want to retire. So I got my woodwind principal players together and we would always do like a rehearsal before the rehearsal so that this gentleman could kind of fit in. But at some point that didn't help anymore. So you have to find a way to retire a musician with dignity, and sometimes it's hard because we don't want to realize we're done, right? All of us, this is such a strong part of us. We we don't just do bookkeeping from 9 to 5 and leave, but it's in us, it's our personality, so how do you take that away from somebody? There are very tricky situations. Different nationalities and cultures. We have about 8 different nationalities in our orchestra. There was a time in Knoxville Symphony during the Iraq War where when the national anthem was played, some of the musicians refused to stand up. So what does that do to your donors and to the community? That's another thing that you need to somehow deal with. Then, of course, different venues, stagehands, light crew, sound crew, all types of soloists coming from international places, big names, and then some that might not be as talented. I have a good story here. So this is, again, not the Symphony of the Mountains. This is another orchestra. We're doing a run out somewhere to a festival in the mountains, and they provide their own soloists, a tenor and a mezzo. I'm like, that's great, and they come to rehearsal, and it was not great. So we somehow made it through rehearsal. They wanted to do Carmen, we kind of survived. We come to the concert. My tenor gets lost. I softly sing his line, but he doesn't pick it up. So then the mezzo gets lost. And so they're both lost. And I thought, whoo, I always wanted to be Carmen. And I turn around and I sing. And the orchestra was laughing so hard, the whole stage was shaking. But then both of them somehow came back in. And after the concert, this woman came up to me and said, you know, that was so nice. I have never seen a conductor share the part with the soloist. And I said, yeah, that's how we do it in Switzerland. Then PR advertising. As a conductor, you're kind of the face of the organization. Also something never was addressed in music school, in my music school. And that's, again, not just as a conductor, but all of you will be in that situation. Staff, board, then fundraising, then all of a sudden a grant is due, but my executive director is sick, so who writes the grant? It would be me. Oh, oops, I've never done this. Presentations to community groups. I could go on and on, but the one thing that all of this has in common is people. So all of you will be leaders, and all of you will be leading all kinds of people. I would like to take this back to the podium and show you with examples of different conductors how different types of leadership could look like. At the end, you'll pick who you are. You might already know a little bit who I am. Could we please see the next clip? This is Riccardo Muti with the La Scala Orchestra. Okay, that's all we needed. Okay, so imagine there's a whole orchestra on stage and they're all warming up and there's chaos and people are talking and playing, and the conductor comes out and does a little something with their hands, and all of a sudden there's beautiful music. Why? It's not because I have a magical trick, but it's because over years you earn the trust of your musicians, of the people you lead, and then they might or might not play beautiful music for me. My stick, I can wave it as long as I want, there's no sound coming out. If the musicians don't play for me, I'm lost. So what have we seen here? Riccardo Muti understands how Mozart goes. He knows how Mozart goes. He is very clear in his hands, like this and whatever, and there's one way and there's no doubt. That's his story of Mozart. Does he get the job done? Oh yes, he does. People are totally together. But also, all 700 employees of Il Teatro della Scala di Milano wrote a letter requesting for him to resign. They went on strike until he actually resigned. Why do we think this is? Any ideas? Yeah?
You can only survive on the goodwill of your supporters as a tyrant and a demanding conductor. If you're not willing to listen to your compatriots, then you're stifling their musical creativity.
Exactly, stifling their musical creativity. Everything he said is exactly what happened. He didn't let them tell their stories, but he told them his story. So they went on strike, he resigned. I was assisting at the La Scala 3 weeks after they came out of that strike. Philip Jordan was conducting, I was assisting, and we were in the rehearsal room. So first of all, this is Italy, right? There's like a soccer game going on. So everybody has their little like iPads watching the soccer game, but when they play like angels. I mean, it's one of the best orchestras in the world. But then the power went out. So they were still in such an angry moment, even though the emergency power came out on right away. They were on their feet, like in old Rome, with their fists up, like you have to let us go. So that's what a tyrant creates. They're not in there together, but he told them what to do, and therefore they didn't take ownership and responsibility anymore, but they forced management to do what they really wanted in a fairly brutal way. I believe that all musicians should take ownership of an orchestra, otherwise there's nothing to go. Now let's go to the next clip, please. This is the famous German conductor Karajan conducting a Beethoven movement. Thank you. So what is the difference here? What do we see? Yeah.
He's allowing his musicians to flow in and out as the piece ebbs and goes on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
He seems to be enjoying the music just as much as they are.
exactly. What about the closed eyes? Yeah.
I feel like that's him listening to try and take in what they're doing and then show what. I
Yeah.
guess. Sorry, that's not too good of a.
No, I think so too. Yes.
Going off that, it seems like he's
Exactly. So he closes his eyes, he's not looking at somebody and telling him what to do, but you need to read my minds. Also, if you see his hands, everything that was said here, he's allowing for them to play because he's not really clear on where that beat is, right? With these circular movements. So what happens in a situation like this is that the musicians look up and then they connect with each other because they're not gonna get that, like in the Mutti, here is where the beat is, but he is inviting versus dictating. So the musicians connect, they take ownership, and he gets the most gorgeous sounds. He said once the worst thing he can do is to give clear directions because then he takes away the creativity of his musicians. I was very fortunate to see him conduct a few times in Europe, and I saw his last performance of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Conductors of you know that it's a nightmare to open that because it's those 3 8 notes and then the fermata and how does one conduct that, and there's all kinds of different ways to do it, and we all practice in front of the mirror and we're still not clear. Karajan came out, he couldn't even walk alone anymore, they had to bring him out and he was kind of leaning in his thing, and I had a seat up on the side so I could see him. I have no idea how he started that piece. There was something coming out of him, and the Berliner Philharmonic played that beginning. One of the hardest things to conduct, he didn't move. So he has this charisma and this musicality. He could stand on his head and conduct with his feet, and it still would work. So just an amazing musician who lets his players play. Now the next one is the older conductor Kleiber. He is conducting the Radetzky March in Vienna. Let's see what he does. Next clip, please. I saw this clip. Okay, so what's happening here with Mr. Kleiber in Vienna? Yes.
He's got a lot more flow. It's more like he's just an active participant than actually a director.
Exactly, yeah.
He has like a bunch of personality and they're so much fun with it, just like being goofy, like with his friends almost. Like he's just like his friends along.
He is having fun. And having fun is usually contagious. What you need to know, we are in Vienna here. The Vienna audience is one of the stiffest, most protocol-following audience in the world. But he is having so much fun that he gets them to clap. That's about here, you're on your feet screaming, yelling, and whistling through your fingers. I mean, Vienna going crazy like this is quite something. He's having fun, and that is contagious. So the musicians are outgoing, the audience is outgoing, everybody will remember that moment. So sometimes as a conductor, we are needed to show complicated phrases and harmony changes and things, but sometimes we are just there to be contagiously joyful and happy. Like when you think back to the clip I showed you with the "Oh Lord, we praise you," where we had all these people, the conductor, I was needed to kind of keep them together, but more so it was about producing happiness and good energy. So he invites people to tell their story while he's still very strict. Later on in this clip, you hear a trumpet player not being totally on pitch, and he gets the eye. And then next time when that comes in the repeat, the guy plays well. I mean, this is not a conductor who just lets things go. He gets the job done, but in a very, very joyful way. And then, when it all comes together, you can create a condition in the world where all of your people can be creative, where you have to give almost no boundaries. Here's Bernstein. No hands. No. Thank you. So there you have it, all those extremes. What kind of leaders are you going to be? It depends probably on where your life takes you and what groups you're working with. Sometimes you might have to be a little more of a Woody, sometimes you can be a Kleiber, and sometimes you can even be a Bernstein. Now, last but not least, I always get asked, how is it to be a woman in a man's job? In Italian, it's maestro. There's not even the word maestra, which would be the female version. So how is that? For me, I'm not going to make a story about it. If it matters that I'm a man or a woman on the podium, then I'm lost. Because then I'm playing a role and I'm not myself. I don't care if my flute player is a man or a woman or what color or religious or whatever. All that matters to me is that in the moment we are together, we do everything we can to give credit to the masterworks we play and play the most beautiful and most touching music. So, for example, you go to a conductor's workshop. Let's say you have 5 conductors. Let's say they all have about the same technical abilities, same orchestra, same day, same piece. You get 5 totally different pieces of music. Because a lot in our jobs goes subconsciously. It's not just what I do with my hands, but it's a lot of things that you can't even explain. So if I'm up there playing, hey, I'm a woman, or hey, I don't want to be a woman, I'm looking like a man, so that doesn't work. If you're a leader and you're not yourself, you're in the wrong position. So pick who you want to be in style of leading, but always be true to yourself. That is, I think, the most important thing. To round up my presentation, and then I'll take some questions, I would like to say again, Symphony of the Mountains has free student tickets. We're playing a big Broadway show on the 4th of November, with 3 Broadway stars coming in. We also, of course, have our big Christmas concerts. We have a Brahms Symphony, we have a couple of world premieres in the spring. So please come and give us a chance. Also, if you would like to sit into rehearsals, you just send me an email or to the office and you can come and sit on stage if you would like to work. So whatever you're interested in the Symphony of the Mountains, let us know and I'll try to make it happen. But also, if you have suggestions about what we could do, how we could improve, please let us know. If you come, bring your friends. I believe in advertising and nice billboards and, all of the fancy stuff. I'm not even going into social media because I'm a total idiot. I still have male pigeons in my backyard. I'm about at that level. So bring somebody. I sometimes tell the story of my mailman Carlos. He's from Cuba, and I talked to him, and he found out what I'm doing, and he said, "Oh no, the symphony I can't go. That's for rich and snobbish people. I don't know when to clap. I don't know what to wear." And I was like, "Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Symphony of the Mountains. If we're not here for everybody, we don't have a right for existence." So I gave him 2 comp tickets, and he rented 2 suits for himself and his son, and they came to a concert, and they're now subscribers. I think all of this advertising is great for people who already know about what all of us do, but it's the personal contact, again, people, to bring them in. The last clip I would like to play for you is with Carl Tanner, Symphony of the Mountains and lots of choirs. Carl Tanner is a world-renowned tenor who sings all over the world. He started his career as a truck driver and as a bounty hunter. Then he was sitting at it's a true story. He was sitting at a red light and he was singing, and he had his window down in his pickup truck, and the woman next to him heard him, and she said, "You need to move to New York," and just at the red light. So he really did it. He packed his pickup truck. He's from a small town in Virginia, very poor family. Moved to New York. All he had was in his pickup truck, and he got a job at one of these restaurants where the waiters are singers. And so he was singing there, and the Santa Fe Opera House director was there and heard him and hired him. And he now has a career. He plays in or sings in all the big opera houses all over the world. So music, again, can change our lives. So before I take questions, this is a few years back. I would like for you to hear the Lord's Prayer with Carl Tanner and Symphony of the Mountains. you. There's another story. When he was with us for the first time, he came in and he was sick. High fever, miserable. So he still wanted to do the concert, but he didn't make musical choices, but what his voice could do, right? So musical choice is no problem to a company because it's logical. It can go one way. I always know what to do. But now all of a sudden he would make choices because he didn't have the breath, and you don't treat that. So then he called me and he said, Cornelia, I'm so sorry, it was so hard and all of that. I'm going to come back and do the Christmas concerts for you for just my expenses. So that kind of guy who is a world-class musician. You never get attitude, actually, in my experience, with the really good musicians. When you get attitude, it's always like the ones that are a little shady. They have to make up with their egos. So anyway, that's my story, and I would like to thank you for being so patient and listening to me, and I'm going to take questions. Yes?
Okay, so the project that you mentioned earlier with the virtual concerts for the retirement homes, it sounded like the idea came before the grant.
Yes, it was two things. So oftentimes you have to give before you receive, like everywhere. So we're in the middle of the pandemic. This is December 2020. Usually we do the big shows with 450 performers. So we said we're going to do something. So we went to the Meadowview Marriott in Kingsport with 20 musicians, masked, distance, and we live streamed that concert as a gift to the community, and we recorded it. And then it went out to nursing homes. And then the Tennessee Arts Commission heard about it and gave us a big grant so we could do another live stream concert to be recorded and then to be sent out into nursing homes. A friend of mine's parents are in Asheville in a nursing home, and she called me and she said, my mother just watched the Symphony of the Mountains concert on their internal channel. I have no idea how it came there. So I think once you do something like that, the word goes out and you get more and more things in.
So I guess my question is, as the artistic director, how do you convince your board to, and what kind of relationships do you personally establish with those people to have that level of trust, of generosity before money? Because a lot of the world is very greedy.
Yeah, so Symphony of the Mountains gets a Tennessee Arts Commission grant. We have some other grants. City of Kingsport gives some, but then there's a lot of private money and corporate money. So this is again like with your orchestra, it's over time. You build relationships and you build trust, and it takes years and years and years to build that trust, but it needs one time that you break somebody's trust and it's gone. And we, of course, had a budget, so we go from July 1st till end of June, so we had a budget for that year, and we were very fortunate in this region that we kept, people kept giving during the pandemic, and therefore, because we did all of these crazy out-of-the-box things, and I think people really appreciated that. I mean, who plays Beethoven's Fifth in a market hall, right? So all those things together, and the Tennessee Arts Commission people hear about that in our reports from people around here, and then it's a question of time and building trust. It's like the musicians who play for you or they don't. For some people they play notes, for others they play music. Yeah. Bless you. More questions, yeah?
So, in your experience, whenever you build like the schedule, like the artistic calendar, who comes with those ideas? What to play, when to play? Like, is it more within like the orchestra? Like, let's say soloist reaches you reaches the soloist, or like how does it happen that the calendar gets so busy and busy?
That's a very good question, and I love it. Somebody else has an accent. Where are you from?
I'm from Poland.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is one of the most interesting parts of my job. There are so many pieces and so many soloists and so many composers who approach me who want to be performing with us. So what we have is, we have a budget. Unfortunately, like everywhere, at the end it comes down to money, what you can afford and what you can't. So what happens right now, I have a budget and I'm putting together a draft of a program for the 23-24 season. I'm thinking which type of concert in which concert hall, what should the big pieces be. Some things are given, like we're going to do in 2024 this Our Voices Rise Together Black History Month concert again. We already know that, oh, I can't really talk about it yet, but the Kruger brothers are going to be with us again. And don't tell anybody, you can't leave what happens in here stays in here. So I draft something out, and then I have a program committee consisting of several musicians of the orchestra, the board president, our marketing company, my executive director, my operations manager, and then we discuss it, and sometimes I have to go back to scratch, and sometimes we take it from there. And then with soloists, we just had Tatiana Tesseman here. Did somebody take a master class with her who is here? Or? Good. Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Yeah. So she is a friend of a friend, and I did concerts with her up in New York, and then therefore was able to get her, because again, we're talking Symphony of the Mountains, our budget is about $1 million, right? Compared to multi-million Chicago or whatever orchestra. So you have relationships, you know somebody, Tatiana could probably make 10 times what we were able to pay her, but because we work together, we know each other. Kruger Brothers, the same thing. So it's a mix of people approaching me, people I know, then the program committee knows people, or just now something really cool is happening next season. One of our trumpet players is from Big Stone Gap, Virginia, and he said, Cornelia, there's a tenor who was born and raised in Big Stone Gap, he is great. He would like to sing with us, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna look him up. And he is a superstar. Roy Cornelius Smith sings in all big opera houses. He's gonna come here, do an opening night with us, and then we play in Big Stone Gap. So such things are happening too. I'm running out of time.